translate.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Let's Talk, and I'm John. And today we're going to be talking about the new 2022 Elvis film directed by Baz Luhrmann, and this time starring Austin Butler in the title role of Elvis Presley. But before we dive into that, if you are a fan of movie reviews, 4K Blu-ray reviews, TV reviews, video game reviews, we do them all here on this channel, so it'd really help us out if you like this video and you hit that subscribe button and you turn notifications on. So this film, directed by Baz Luhrmann, is the latest musical biographical film, and it's uncovering the legend that is Elvis Presley, one of the most famous figures in the entire planet of all time, and his story is just as fascinating as his musical career. So I was pretty excited to see this film. I'm not the biggest Baz Luhrmann guy, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. I'm not a fan of Moulin Rouge, and I definitely wasn't a fan of the Romeo and Juliet that came out in the late 90s, and I really wasn't a fan of The Great Gatsby. But what I am a fan of in all of these films is the style. If Baz Luhrmann could somehow find a way to have his story connect to me, I really knew I would eventually like one of his films, because the way he shoots a film and the way he goes style over substance does work for me sometimes. And I think it took a while, but we finally got there for me. This is definitely by far my favorite Baz Luhrmann film, and Austin Butler in the title role of Elvis Presley is incredible. I would not be shocked if in a few months when they start announcing Oscar nominations that he gets an Oscar nomination and is considered the frontrunner. Right now, as of June of 2022, there is not a doubt in my mind that he should be in consideration for Best Actor, because he is the best part of this film, as him as Elvis Presley. He totally gets what Baz Luhrmann was going for, because Baz Luhrmann, he does take that style thing that we saw in The Great Gatsby and that we saw in Moulin Rouge and does transfer it to the Elvis product. So this film follows around mostly, this is actually told mostly from the perspective of Colonel Tom Parker, played by Tom Hanks. He was Elvis's manager until the time of his death. He pretty much, as he likes to say, he discovered Elvis and they were a team. Even if Elvis doesn't feel that way, he really, it's trying to show you that this guy was pretty much taking advantage of Elvis. And I don't know how true all of this stuff is in this movie, but if it is true, the fact that this man was getting 50% of the income that Elvis was earning is incredible. And it could be argued, and that's what he is trying to argue, that without his talents, he couldn't take Elvis to the promised land that he did. Because Elvis is obviously one of the most famous figures ever. There's a reason why Elvis died in the 70s, and we still bring him up as one of the greatest performers and one of the greatest musicians to ever walk our planet. He's up there with the Michael Jacksons of the world, where they just outshined music in general and just became a key figure. There's a reason why people still do Elvis impersonations to this very day, or want to get married in an Elvis chapel in Las Vegas. It's because the figure of Elvis overshadowed his music. He was one of the biggest people ever. And to have Baz Luhrmann come in and create that character, because this film does feel bigger than Elvis. This is a movie that I feel like you need to be seeing in movie theaters, because the music and the lighting and the way this film is shot, that is the best part of this film. This is a story you already know, so the only way to make this story told in a 2022 world, I believe, is in the manner like this, where this film is actually almost a musical. It's really a lot of style. This movie really has some of the best lighting that you're going to see on screen. The editing was actually, it was very kinetic, especially in the beginning, and it actually kind of gave me anxiety, where it felt like the pacing was so fast. We were going through his life so quick. It took not much time to slow down. It really was just getting from performance to performance. That's how we were really telling his life story in this, is from each performance to performance. And it's not like we get quick 30-second clips of him singing. They almost have the entire song play out and show Austin Butler performing that song on stage, because they're trying to portray to you this is where he is best, is when he is on stage. Forget everything that happens off stage, his love life, his drug use, you know all that, but this time we're going to show you the performer of Elvis and what it meant to him to be a performer and what his music meant to him. Because we've heard a lot of different stories about Elvis and how his music came to be. Did he steal the music? Was he honoring the music? Well, this movie does show you, at least from his perspective in that sense, and what Colonel Tom Parker's perspective was on the whole matter too. And you know, some of that stuff, it's gonna bother you. It definitely is, and that's what they're going for, because it's a different time. And with Colonel Tom Parker, played by Tom Hanks, he's supposed to be the antagonist in this movie, but you get Tom Hanks for this role because it does raise that moral gray area of, is it right or wrong? That's why you bring Tom Hanks in, because nobody ever looks at Tom Hanks as the villain. And are you going to look at Colonel Tom Parker as the villain when Tom Hanks is portraying him? I think that Tom Hanks really does show you that, this guy believed that what he was doing was right, even if it was completely wrong, and especially in the eyes of Elvis and people around Elvis, that this guy was taking advantage of him. But Elvis had his own mental struggles and his own struggles throughout his whole life, and that's what this movie is trying to show you as well. But it's not walking you through every aspect of his life. This is not like the Kurt Russell film from the late 70s, directed by John Carpenter. This isn't like a feel-good kind of movie, but the music and the scenes with the music, performing some of the scenes in Vegas, some of the scenes in the early days like Jailhouse Rock or Heartbreak Hotel, those performances are incredible, and the fact that they lay on those performances for pretty much the entire length of the song is really, really well done. This is where Austin Butler really does carry this film, in the sense that he has to do these performances. He's on there, he's sweaty, they got all these zoom-ins, the lighting is perfect because this is a very colorful movie. It starts with the opening credits with how colorful it is, really leaning into like the Elvis jumpsuits of the late 60s, early 70s kind of look, and those are very colorful. It's not a flat looking movie. This movie's definitely made for the big screen. That's where you have to go see this movie. I saw this in Dolby Atmos yesterday, and that is where you're going to get the most out of this film. I don't think that this movie is going to translate that well to your home theater unless you have a super high-end one. I definitely will be getting the 4K to see this because I do want to see this at home, but I think you'll get the most mileage out of this film if you go and see it in theaters, because the music is gonna blow you away the way it is performed. Elvis's music has never sounded better than being mixed in the 2022 soundtrack for this film. I promise you're gonna have a great time. I was in a theater with quite a mixed crowd of older people and younger people, and everyone was really happy and really enjoying themselves watching this movie, and I really had a fun movie theater experience. I think that this movie is definitely something that's gonna be made for the movie theaters. I don't know if this is gonna be a movie that you're gonna wanna watch at home. You might not enjoy it as much, and I really do think that right now, people's views of it is definitely gonna come from the theater, and when you watch it a second time, I don't think it is gonna last as far as the great musical biopics that we've gotten recently, like Ray or Walk the Line. I think this is going to fall more in line with Rocket Man or Bohemian Rhapsody, which I do like both of those, but I don't think those live up to the other ones. But I think that this is the only way they could really tell this story in modern day, was to actually make it more in line with the guy who made Moulin Rouge or Romeo and Juliet, or The Great Gatsby, where it's more style over substance. And I really do think that actually worked for this project. Personally, I think that this is definitely, for me, by far Baz Luhrmann's best film, and Austin Butler is a star after this, so it's definitely a total recommendation of this. If you're an Elvis fan, I think you're going to get way more mileage out of this than if you're not. Because I think if you're not an Elvis fan, they do kind of like coast through a lot of big aspects of his life. Like, don't go into this expecting a fall of man kind of film where you're going to see this guy really fall into his drug use. It's there, but it's more of a background thing to his music. This is more about his music, in my opinion, and his love for music than it is about the dramas of Elvis's life, because we saw that. You've seen plenty of documentaries about that. You can go watch a documentary about Elvis's rapid drug use through the 70s, or about his daughter Lisa Marie Presley. That's all there. It's in this film too, but it's not the main focus of this. This is about Elvis. This is about Colonel Tom Parker, played by Tom Hanks. Those are the two main stars of this movie, and that's the film that you were going to see. You're going to basically see a musical with these characters in it, and I really do think that you're going to really enjoy this film if you go out to theaters and see it. I just think that this is a very enjoyable film. This movie's 2 hours and 40 minutes long, and it moves along at a pretty rapid pace. It does take time to slow down at scenes, but that is not the main purpose of this film. I think this is a real big crowd pleaser, and I really do think you're going to enjoy it. So if I am going to rate Elvis on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to give Elvis an 8.5 out of 10. There's not many negatives I can point out in this film, other than the fact that it did take me a little while to get used to Tom Hanks' accent, and sometimes the CGI could be a little shaky, but it did actually still work in this film with the artistic style they were going for. So those are really my only negatives with this film. I really had a great time at the theater, and what a weekend for movies. If you're a fan of movies, you still got Tom Cruise in Top Gun Maverick in theaters, you got Lightyear from Pixar, you can go out and see The Black Phone from Blumhouse, and then you got Elvis this weekend. So there is so much in theaters right now. I feel like movies are back, and we're finally getting into that summer blockbuster season where you have plenty of options. You don't have to just be locked down to one Marvel film. But if you're looking to enjoy yourself, there's plenty of great movies out there. So definitely run out to the theater this weekend. I promise you'll have a good time, and it's a great way to escape the heat. And anyway, guys, thanks for being a fan of Let's Talk. Please make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and you tell all your friends.